Hello, I'll introduce myself. I'm Annette Dearling Manchester. I'm one of the full-time faculty in the Carpentry and Renovation program, and I'm also the program coordinator. With me today is Craig Brown, who's also one of our full-time faculty.
Hello, everyone.
And I'll let Tim introduce himself.
My name's Tim Buns. I teach in the one-year electrical techniques program, and I'm also the coordinator for that program, and also the coordinator for the electrical trades apprenticeship. So we run the apprenticeship on day blocks, and we also have the apprenticeship for the night school. And I have Daryl Pooley here with me. He teaches strictly into the trades end of it. So I'm teaching into the post-secondary, and then Daryl's into the trades end of it.
Yes, Daryl Pooley, electrical apprenticeship here, the block term. So it's the 8-week, 10-week blocks that come into Niagara College. I teach solely into that program, not into the post-secondary, but I can speak to the post-secondary programs and how they relate to the actual electrical apprenticeship and the journey within. I've had the possibility and the pleasure of working with out in the field some of the electrical techniques program post-secondary students, and I also teach some that have pursued the electrical apprenticeship beyond post-secondary. So I can speak on both ends on that one there. So
okay, I guess I'm up on this slide here. So I'm going to talk about our 1-year and 2-year carpentry and renovation programs. I'm going to start with the 1-year certificate program. It's called Carpentry and Renovation Techniques, and it is a really great introductory program to the world of carpentry and renovations. So it is a very broad kind of program that introduces you to a lot of activities that you might run across in the industry, as well as learning all about the tools and how to use them. We are heavily focused on health and safety in that first year to make sure that you go out into the industry very safe. And we have lots of other courses. Most of the delivery in that first year program is very hands-on, which I think most of you will find very exciting. We do have some also in-class courses to fill in with the basics in things like math and estimating and blueprint reading, which isn't there, but that's another one of those essential skills that you'll learn in the first year. It's a great time to come into the construction industry. There's a huge demand for skilled trade people because there's a chronic shortage, if you've probably heard of. And in fact, we can't produce enough graduates because there's so many places at the moment. So it's a great time to be coming into this industry. So this is, as I said, a 1-year program, and but it is common with this first year is common with our 2-year program as well. So at the end of this first year, if you want to leave and go on into the industry, that's great. You leave with a certificate. If you're interested in learning more about this industry before you leave, you can go over into our 2-year program. Next slide, please. And it's very easy to do that. We make it very easy at Niagara College to slip into this 2-year program. All of what you've done in the first year counts towards going into the second year. And the great thing about going into the second year is there's a co-op position in the middle. And that will take me to this 2-year program. Again, same name, Carpentry and Renovation, but it's called the Technician program. And that's the 2-year program that has a co-op in the middle. And after this 2 years of our program, you're more than well equipped to enter the industry and probably able to, some of our graduates actually start their own businesses when they leave. Not all of them, but some of them do. And also you've had experience in the industry from your co-op, so you're that much farther ahead when you're finished. So a little bit about co-op, because if some of you are in high school, it's a little bit different than what you do in high school. The co-op placement is actually a full 4 months of paid work with an industry partner. We have a fabulous co-op department that recruits and finds placements and helps you get those jobs. They help you with your resume and things like that. You're also welcome to find your own co-op job. A lot of our students do that, but it's not necessary because we have a lot of co-op listings And so you'll won't have to worry about finding that co-op job, at least not at the moment, because there's so many postings. And of course, the great thing about having a co-op term in the middle is you gain all that experience in the industry. And you might actually discover things that you like or things that you don't like by going out and working for 4 months. It also gives you time to save up a little money for the second year, which is great. And also, quite often, once you've had a co-op position, it may work into a full-time job. It sort of gets your foot in the door, and that is one of the advantages of doing the 2-year program. Again, as with the 1-year program, the 2-year program, we have lots of jobs out there, so there's a high demand for our graduates. We typically have about 100% placement when our graduates leave at the moment. And in the second year, we go a little bit more into detail with the renovation portion of construction. So a little bit more about project management, the delivery of a renovation project and things like that. And again, as I said, it is the advantage of having the co-op placement in that second year. This slide just gives you sort of an idea of some of the courses you'll be taking in our program. On the left-hand side is all of the things you take in that first year. I did mention some of them. You'll get to spend most of your time in the labs working with your hands. You're going to get dirty working with concrete. You're going to be doing some framing. There's a course on foundations, different kinds of foundations and how to put them together. Exterior finishes, trim. Again, some of those really essential skills like blueprint reading, technical math is important, estimating. We do have a surveying course if that interests you, and basically a really good foundation for moving into the industry. On the right-hand side are some of the things that we get into in the second year. We take things a little further. In particular, which is interesting, we do a course in commercial construction because not everybody's going to work in the residential field. So if you're interested in commercial construction, which would be steel frame and drywall kind of construction, then you'll have a good basis for that. There's a course in mechanical, getting you familiar with heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, things like that. We do have a green building course, which is of course very relevant at the moment. So introduce you to some of the newer ways of building. And building codes, of course, is covered in both years, but in second year, we go into it in a little more detail. And there's a couple of design courses actually that you probably won't find at other colleges in this program, but we're proud to actually include these because it makes you a more rounded individual when you leave, that you can actually think about a project as opposed to just following it through, following instructions. You're actually thinking about how it's designed and how it's put together. So I think I'll hand this over to Craig to give you a little tour of our facility.
Quickly, Annette and Craig, this is a great question that speaks, I think, to NC's focus on experiential learning. Somebody asked how much time in the shops and labs do students actually spend in the program, you know, a breakdown versus in-class learning over hands-on learning or actually practical application?
That's a good question, actually, because it's hard to answer at the moment because we're in this COVID requirements. So a lot of our in-class sessions aren't in class at the moment, they're online. But having said that, in a normal world, I would probably estimate that 70% of your time is in the shop and maybe 30s in classrooms. But it's difficult to put an exact number on it, but definitely it's more in shop time than it is in classroom time. Craig, would you agree with me?
I would say, yeah, it seems to be loosely broken down to 3 per week would be a 3-hour lab and a 1-hour lecture, essentially. So right now those lectures are online, but hopefully we'll move into in-person sooner than later. Yeah, thanks, Annette. Thanks for that summary of the 1- and 2-year course. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. My name is Craig Brown. I am a professor in the Carpentry and Renovation Technician program. And I'm lucky enough to give you a virtual tour of our shop. Unfortunately, I can't do it in person at the moment, but we're working on that soon. So sign up for that. Really cool place to walk around. So we're going to look at, let's focus on the picture in the top right-hand corner. So the entire space or the entire shop is called, is formerly known as TC 177, and it's split into two spaces. There's A and B. So what we're looking at in these two pictures is A. So this is kind of the A space in the top right-hand corner is where we kind of do our smaller projects, mortising and hinges, things we need a desktop for. But all of those desktops are movable. We get them out of the way when we have larger scale projects, one of which we'll look at in a few slides. So that's one of the workspaces. It's typically where we do our first 10, 15 minutes of overview and theory before we get into the practical. You'll notice behind them in the back is some bays, and that's where we work on drywall finishing, hanging interior doors, those sorts of things. And above, on top of those bays, we've got our upper mezzanine. And you can see the start of our commercial construction practices where we work with steel studding, drop ceilings, those sorts of things. So that's the half of the A space, let's call it. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner picture, this is the other half of the A space, all the same room. This is where we kind of get into the larger scale projects and learning. In this space, we work on the kind of the full residential gamut. We start with commercial and residential concrete forming. There's you can see a set of forms in the bottom left-hand corner of the bottom left-hand corner picture, and those orange cages are what we call Duraforms, and that's kind of the industry standard for using doing concrete foundations. You'll get a full lesson on that and full training. That we look at residential framing of floors, walls, roofs, how they're structured, how they're built. And we move on to exterior finishes, roofing, siding, waterproofing, and kind of finish up with interior finishes. So trim work, drywall, mud and tape, all those sorts of things. So all those things happen in that open space in one form or another. So it's a well-equipped space. It's very, very well taken care of by Marco, our shop tech. He does a fantastic job in this entire space. And that is TC 177A. That's where you spend most of your time. Next slide, please. So bottom right-hand corner picture. So we're standing with our back to the space that we just looked at, and we're looking into what's considered TC 177B. So this is a fully functioning, fully equipped wood shop, cabinet shop. Very, very well equipped, an amazing space. Here, the courses we work with in here have a lot to do with one of the courses that's a great example. It's called Tools and Techniques. So it's kind of a project-based course. We do some really interesting woodworking projects, and that's how we learn about all kind of the cabinet shop tools, the table saws, the jointers, the planers, the overhead sanders. We learn those tools and techniques through projects, which makes it interesting and applicable. You spend a lot of time on those tools, and it's a great course. It's a great space, very clean, dry, breathable space. You'll notice a really capable dust collection system hanging down from the ceiling. Very, very overbuilt. So it's just a really comfortable space for learning and woodworking. And the picture on the top left is one of the tool cribs. So you can see how really well equipped the space is. Every tool you could need, many of them, very rarely is anyone waiting for tools. So that's the other half of the shop.
If you wouldn't mind, we actually have a quick question I think is the next dovetail before we jump over. A student's asked, what kind of lab equipments and materials are the students provided with to work with, as opposed to something they'd be expected to furnish?
So they have kind of all the hand tools needed. So they'll supply, without knowing exactly, it's like a tool belt, tape measure, speed square, knife, PPE, all of those sorts of things. Essentially, I think the only thing they need to purchase is a hammer at some point. They don't have to purchase one. They can bring one from home. We don't supply a hammer to start because depends on what you're interested in and focused on will determine what sort of hammer really you should get. But generally, everything you need to get started from a hand tool perspective is included and provided.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. So this is just another shot of that upper mezzanine in the A space, 177A. This is just a look at the commercial construction portion that's kind of further along from our previous picture. You can see they've done extensive steel studding, which is really interesting. I love that course. Knockdown door installs, lots of anything you'd find in a commercial or storefront space, dropped ceilings, curved walls, and some drywall applications that work with those formats. And here's a roofing trend. You'll see a lot of these. So these are used throughout all the terms, both first and second year, and the first and through fifth terms. These are used for learning how to build and frame and cut roof rafters. We use it in our structural modifications course, where the dormer that you see sticking out of the roof is added. So we edit the existing roof, restructure it. You learn how to read loads and where the loads go and how to support them in creating that dormer. We use it in exterior finishes, including waterproofing, siding, flashing, applying the shingles themselves. And so these roofing trainers are just a great example of how we really scale down the industry, scale it down to be applicable in the college space, but it's the same materials, it's the same movements, it's the same orders of application that you'll find in the industry, just kind of scaled down to a college size lesson. So you'll be very familiar with these. And most excited for me is this is our small house project. So this is kind of fifth term focused, kind of second year, although most terms get to have something to do with our project. This small house, we're not calling it a full-size house, we're not calling it a tiny house either, but this is a modular build, so it's split right down the middle. So it comes apart in two pieces, and that's for transport. And this started its life in the shop, in that A space where all those desks were. And once we had the exterior finishes applied, we moved it outside and continue to work on it now. Really interesting project. We've done a number of really cool projects in the past, like we've done full-size modular homes that were delivered to traditional foundations and families are living in today. We've done a couple of shipping container homes. Actually, you can see one in the left-hand side of that picture, just above that pylon. There's one of the shipping container homes that we worked on. And this is kind of the latest iteration of that program. So these projects are great for kind of pulling together everything that students have learned over all 5 terms, including what they're learning at the time of this project course, to really pull it all together, the framing, the finishing, the mechanical aspects of things, in all framed in kind of a general contractor framework or text, so that they really get to hone the skills and ask the questions before they get out into the industry. And again, just a really good project to kind of let them loose and let them work on what they've learned to date, and just really applicable to all of those previous courses. And a lot of fun, exciting, and more interesting projects to come. So career opportunities, I can speak to this. All sections of the construction industry are booming. I'm personally only 3 months removed from the day-to-day industry, and I can confirm that employers are just eagerly looking for motivated, interested people that have a really well-rounded skill set and knowledge. And yeah, just no shortage of opportunities out there. Very recently, I was personally trying to find help, trying to find trades, trying to find people to work with me on a general contracting basis and building homes, and I can speak to how difficult it is. So lots of opportunities out there. I'm not going to list them all off, but there they are. And they're right through the entire industry, whether it's through, if you're looking for employment or self-employment, the opportunities are endless. So before I just sign up, I just want to say the best of luck to everybody. And I hope to see you around the shop very soon. Come and do a live tour with me. I'd be happy to take you around and show you around. But next up, I'd just like to introduce an all-star student, currently in his 5th term, Pedro. And yeah, so he's one of the students working on our 5th term and was in that picture of the small house doing some plumbing. So he's doing a great job, and we'd just like for him to shed some light on that and talk to you as well. Pedro, welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Annette. Good afternoon, everybody. It's actually an honor to be here because I work where all of you guys are right now, and I can directly answer you guys that everything you hear, every video you see posted, all truth, and more than that. I'm in the last term right now, so I can really like feel confident to say what I'm saying right now. And right now, I didn't even graduate. I'm 1 month away from graduation, and I already have 3 job offers from January. So 3 different companies. I'm already working at Kernwood Homes as a part-time trim carpenter, and I did my co-op at Amber Stairs, one amazing company. And they want me to start there in January as well. So it's a great market right now. And about the college is one thing that I noticed already when you are in the job site and you mention, oh, I'm taking carpentry at Niagara College, is the level of respect that people look at you and say, okay, this guy knows something, he's having a great experience, and they treat you immediately with more respect and more confident as well. So this is awesome. And it's true because you get in the job site and you literally know everything that's happening around. You don't feel like, oh, what's going on? No, you know everything that's going on. So it's very good for me that I'm like changing career. So I was completely new 2 years ago when I started, and I feel very confident right now. And talking about another thing that I really need to highlight here is the effort that the teacher puts to keep you like learning, and they are always worried to know that if the experience is going well for you and if you're actually feeling confident to do things, and they give you things to do, it's like awesome. So I can't recommend more people that want to become a carpenter. This course is like a game changer, and it is for me. And I'm so grateful that I did this choice, that I can't recommend more for you guys. So if you have the opportunity and if you really want to become a carpenter, you are in the correct place. And this supportive teachers that we have, the program is very well crafted because it shows us different aspects and open our minds to think that we at first was not even think that was possible, and it's happening right now. So that's it. I'm very happy and I'm very confident about my future right now. And I have to say thank you to this institution, to Niagara College, to Annette, to Craig, to Colin, to every teacher that I had there, that I'm so lucky that I made this choice. Thank you very much.
Before we jump over to electrical, I just wanted to thank Pedro specifically for being here today. As we go through the Q&A, please remember you have an actual student who's directly in the program. So if you want to ask questions about, what was his knowledge base coming in, where has he been able to get help, how were profs able to take him through each step safely, or how is he building a skill set? What is he maybe leaning towards now? What does he think he wants to do career-wise? Did he have something come in that he was kind of set on, or has that changed? Think about these big kinds of questions. We have an actual student for you to talk to today that's really in the program right now, living it. I'd love to see in that Q&A, and especially as we get closer to the end, think about some critical things, because it's pretty rare to actually get to talk to somebody doing it.
Yeah, okay. I can start on it from here. We are a one-year post-secondary program to get into the apprenticeship part of it, what Daryl will talk about here in a few minutes, is that you have to be assigned to a contractor. So you have to be working for a licensed registered electrical contractor to get into the apprenticeship part of it. The one-year program that we have here, the electrical techniques program, it prepares you with the skill sets so that these contractors will hire you to get into those programs or get into the apprenticeship part of it. Our electrical techniques program, most of our students in September that come in, we take in, that's our majority of the students that we take in at that time. And most of those students there are post-secondary students. So they're just coming out of high school. A lot of those students have never used any tools whatsoever, screwdrivers or drills or any of that kind of stuff. And that's definitely not a problem, because we do start right from the beginning. And we teach all the students how to use the drills and all the hand tools and everything that's needed. We start right from the basics. And within a few weeks of being in there, for some of the students that's never even seen some of this equipment and that, they join right in and they don't have any problems whatsoever picking up the tools and going at it. Again, like I said, we start off very, very slow at the beginning and teach all the tools that they need, teach how to use all these tools. And then we'll get into some of our workstations in there. And then they'll start off very simple circuit of a single pole switch. And then we'll go into a 3-way and 4-way, and we'll just keep building up on those circuits. So our first term that we have, the 14-week term that we have, is all residential application. Again, like I said, in the shop class, they get 3 hours in the shop class and they get 1 hour of lecture for that class. And again, like I said, we just build really slow up on the circuits, and we just continue to add a little bit more and add a little bit more and add a little bit more. And then by the end, they're doing a kind of a kitchen renovation, wiring up for your kitchen counter receptacles, your stove receptacles. And then they get into renovating a bathroom so that they're putting a bathroom fan in and wiring up lights over top of a vanity, GFI receptacles, all that kind of stuff. So it builds up pretty quick. So this picture here is of one of the students. This is actually a term 2 thing. So this is the getting into week 8 to 15. This one here's a reversing switch. So we get into a little bit of motor control. So once we get into the second term in the shop class itself, in the installations class, we start out with some AC90, which is just a flexible type of cable. Then they get into bending some EMT, which is electrical metallic tubing. We work with quite a bit with that because the industry, and that's one of the conduits and raceways that is very used throughout all the industries, right from light commercial into some heavier industrial applications. We get into EMT, so we do a lot of that kind of stuff, and then we work our way through just some EMT labs. Then we do some motor control, some lighting control for all that into that part of the installations class. But also in level 2 in there, we also work with instrumentation. So the instrumentation we use, we get into some PLC control. We get into some temperature and lighting controls, all that kind of stuff, also into the instrumentation part of it. So our program, yeah, it is on the Welland campus. We do have a 2 areas that we mostly work in, the TC 176, which is our shop class, which we do all our installation classes in there. But also in the electrical techniques program too, we also do teach blueprint reading. They call it drafting, but blueprint reading, we get you to a couple projects where you're actually teaching you how to read the prints, what things mean on the print, but not only in the electrical prints, but we also get into the architectural prints so that you understand some of the structure and how things are put together. and why they're put together like that. And some of the stuff that we can and cannot touch, as far as Craig would tell you that, you know, we get a little aggressive as electricians drilling into some of the stuff that maybe we shouldn't, but on site. So we teach those things we can't and cannot be touched. Also, they in our drafting class, there we get you to do a material takeoff so that you know what materials that you're going to need. So if your boss in the morning hands you a set of blueprints and says, this is the job you're going to be doing today, you can take a quick peek at those blueprints before you leave the shop, and you know what materials that you're going to need for the day to complete some of those tasks that have to be done at that time. So being able to understand those blueprints and know the material that you need to for the day is a big thing. Running around for material that you forgot during the day is not very good for time to get things done. And also on those prints too, not only doing a material takeoff, that you make a list of materials, we also talk about some of the things that time that it takes to do certain applications, like putting a service on a building, wiring up a certain area. How long does this take? And we kind of put some numbers to it so that if you want to become an entrepreneur down the road, you have a good idea how the estimating is done. We talk about contract documents. We talk about putting in proposals and that kind of thing. So through the drafting, you get it both levels, year one term one and term two. Term one, again, is all residential applications. And then when we get into term two, then you're getting into your commercial applications for that. Also, we have electronics and electrical concepts. Our electrical concepts is our basic theory. So in term one, we're basically working with DC voltages and DC currents. And then in term two, we get to talk about some AC voltages and AC currents. And you'll build some circuits. So you'll get 1 hour a lecture with your concepts 1 and 2. You'll get 1 hour lecture for that. And then you get 2 hours in a lab class actually building these circuits and testing these circuits. And then we have the electronics. It starts off pretty similar to the concept classes. And after a couple of weeks, it breaks off and it gets into some more electronic components and that kind of thing. And then again, you got 1 hour a lecture and 2 hours in the shop or in the lab class, building them and testing the circuits that you put together. The faculty that work with you in these labs and classes, they're all certified master electricians, 20 years plus of experience in the field. So they really know what they're talking about when they're explaining procedures, how to put things together and how to get things done. The experience that they have is amazing to what we have. And what's amazing that I think for Niagara College is that we have staff that worked in all the different areas, not only just the residential and the commercial and industrial applications. We had some of the staff that's worked with the wineries. They worked in the industry with agricultural stuff, so your greenhouses and that kind of thing too. So we have a vast of knowledge with the staff that we have that you're going to learn from. And again, when you come in, don't be afraid to ask the questions. They'll answer all the questions you want. And I know most of our staff is pretty proud and pretty happy with the accomplishments they made over the time that they worked in the field. So they have a lot of stories for you and examples on different applications that they've done. The demand for our students is high. I know we do get a few of the students coming in that are in other electrical programs, or they've taken the construction renovation program where they want to know a little bit more about the electrical applications. So they come in and take this course for that. So we do have a few students that not necessarily want to be electrician, but they want that knowledge because they're getting into other fields like the construction renovation. Oh boy.
Welcome to Niagara College. My name's Tim Bunz. I'm the coordinator for the electrical trades and the electrical techniques program. Here at Niagara College, the electrical techniques program is done in a way that we can get the students to gain some skills to get into the electrical trade. The electrical trade, though, also has a bunch of avenues. So in the electrical techniques program here, we touch on a lot of things. So not only do we touch on doing some residential wiring, some commercial wiring, we also touch on some fire alarm systems, data cabling, job estimating, you know, for students that maybe down the road want to be entrepreneurs for themselves. So we teach a little bit of that estimating, blueprint reading. The electrical techniques program also is a one-year certificate program. So there's 2 terms of 14 weeks. And the first term is basically all residential wiring. So we learn some circuits in residential wiring, the 3-way switch, 4-way switches, some lighting, bathroom renovations, kitchen renovations. So we stay in the first term fairly heavy into the residential applications, and then when we get into term 2, which is the following 14 weeks, we get into some more of the commercial wiring. So we get into some AC90 flexible armored cable, conduit, motor control, and that's where we get into a little bit of the fire alarms and the instrumentation. So in this room here, we'll do our electronic theory, our electrical theory, concepts 1, our electronic concepts, and our instrumentation. The concepts 1 starts off with some DC theory on some breadboards with some series circuits and then parallel circuits and series parallel circuits. They work through that and all the mathematical formulas with the electrical. They'll go through all that in here. They'll design their circuits and they'll test them all out, and then they'll go on to other circuits, and they just keep building from a small circuit, and they just work their way up, and it just helps them to understand when they do get into the electrical field how electricity works, and gives them a good understanding of what's expected of them in the field in the future. We're in another one of our labs here at Niagara College. This lab here we use for our installations program. So our installations 1 and installations 2. So installations 1 is the level 1. Again, we stick pretty much completely with residential on the level 1. So again, this is where we get into wiring up our single pole switches, 3-way switches, our kitchen renovations, bathroom renovations, labs. So we go through pretty much anything that a electrician or apprentice would run into doing electrical wiring for residential applications. Getting into level 2, we get into doing some armored cable, AC90, EMT conduit bending. We do some threading for rigid conduit, work a little bit with PVC conduit, bending and working with that. So it's a pretty good diversity on the stuff that we do that gives our students the skills that they need to gain employment with an electrical contractor. So this is one of our lab workstations that we have here at Niagara College. On one side of the booth here, we use our regular wood studs. The students are able to drill the studs, they mount their boxes, run all their wiring for their circuits for for their single pole and 3-way switches in here. And in their kitchen design and all that kind of stuff is done on this side. So we actually wire everything up, wire up our single pole or 3-way switch, they connect it into the panel, and then when they're done and everything is done, then we actually test it. We actually test everything live here so the students can see that it works, and it's kind of a gratification when the students can turn their circuits on or work their switches and everything seems to work the way it's supposed to. We do here are very, very strong on our health and safety. So our students, one of the biggest things they have to do when they're working on a panel, they have to do their lockout, tagout, and test procedures. So they'll use a multimeter and they'll test that out, and they'll go into the panel to make sure the panel is shut off. They'll go in and they'll test it with their meters, and when they're done, they lock it out. And it's very, very important that we teach that kind of stuff here, so that when they get out on the job site and they start working, that they know the safety procedures they need to follow to keep themselves safe. So we teach all that, especially in level 1. We get right into the health and safety and the safety part of doing the electrical work. Again, they wire everything up, and then we test it live. Then when we get into level 2, and in level 2 we get into the armored cable, so then we can fasten our boxes onto our steel studs with our armored cable, so our AC90 or BX cable, and then they'll do their circuits on the steel studs. Gives them a little bit of real application kind of thing for on the job sites when they will run into steel studs and mount boxes on that. Also in the level 2, we have in the installations part of it, we do the fire alarm systems. So we teach them the fire alarm systems. They actually wire it all up, they run it in, they put all their devices on here, their smoke detectors, heat detectors, pull stations, all that stuff, and then they actually program the panel and they set it all up and they do a walkthrough test on this fire alarm system. And then a little bit further into level 2, then we get into our motor control, and we teach them a little bit of motor control. We get into our stop, starts, forward and reversing, some time delay starting and that kind of thing. So we get a little bit of motor control into it. We have the fire alarm systems and the steel studs. So they get into more of the commercial end in the level 2. Here I have a couple of the trainer boards that was designed here at Niagara College. Some of the staff here seen a need to have something that was directly designed for our electrical techniques program. Here we have just a small training board that helps us with motor control with our stops, starts, forward and reversing for our motor control. It's just part of one more part of the level 2 installations classes. Also in the level 2, we also teach data cabling. So we get into Cat 5, Cat 6, some fiber optic cables. We do a little bit of soldering in there for them for their fiber optic boards and testing them. The data cable is just another offshoot that electricians might get into. We've had some students that were very successful. We're going out and gaining employment with some of the data cabling companies in the area. And they like our students for the fact that they can actually bend some conduit and help them pull in some of the data cabling. So that it's just one more offshoot of being an electrician or working in the electrical field is the data cabling. So we do teach them how to put the ends on, how to put it all together and test some data cabling. Thank you for taking the virtual tour here at Niagara College, and I hope to see you soon and to enjoy our programs and get some skill sets that you need to gain employment in the electrical trade.
Career opportunities in the electrical techniques program. We do cover a lot of stuff. We start, again, residential, the commercial, and some of the industrial stuff. We also teach some data cabling with fiber optic cables. That's another avenue, again, that comes out of the electrical field. We do with fire alarms and security systems, another industry that's got a high demand, especially the fire alarm technicians, the fire alarm area. They're always looking for people to work in that industry too. But again, with the learning and the skill sets you get from the electrical techniques program, with a lot of EMT conduit bending, we also do we fire alarm panels, so you're able to wire up all those fire alarm panels, test all your devices, pull stations and smoke and heat detectors. So you're working with all that. And then we do have a lot of motor control, so single phase and three-phase motor control, that you learn some of that applications for them. We also work with some PLCs, so you get to program some of the smaller smart relays, PLC kind of things. And then we got some bigger ones in there that PLCs that take a little bit more programming. You build your circuits on a laptop computer, plug it into the PLC, and run it through. On one of the slides or screens there, you see previously there, you've seen some stoplights up through the shop, and the students can write a program, or taught how to write a program for those street lights, and then they can run them and run their applications and see how they work. They can actually see how they function when they wire them up. There you go, Daryl, all yours.
All right, I'll jump in. I'll make this short and sweet, just running through this, just saying that the post-secondary program, it is not an apprenticeship, right? So I can speak solely because I teach in the electrical apprenticeship program. I teach all different courses for all 3 levels, whether it is you're into night release or a block term, which is your 8-week, 10-week blocks for your 3 terms for your apprenticeship. So here at Niagara College, we do offer the industrial electrician apprenticeship, as well as the next slide here, which is mainly focused on the construction and maintenance, which is your 309A. Something that we all are and have, worked with out in the field, even myself being out and working in the field for over 20 years, and then ultimately coming into teaching part-time and then full-time here at Niagara College. So I can speak on the end of, anyone who attends the electrical techniques program, coming from a employer. So whether I'm the site supervisor, project management, or the owner of my business, working with students that already have all of this knowledge ahead of time coming out into the program, like coming out of the program and then coming into the field, it helps us basically save a fair bit of time for you to already know all the basics. You get into your Canadian Electrical Code with rules and regulations, basic circuitry, your installations, as Tim said here, conduit bending, like all these little things will help you out in the field, because ultimately you would have to be signed on by an electrical contractor, and then you would be sent in to do your terms, right? So whether you did a 442, which is your industrial electrician, or construction and maintenance, which is your 309A, both offered at the college here. But I'll tell you right now, again, even besides working with the students that come out of a program like this out in the field, I have the opportunity now of actually seeing a fair number of them sift into the actual electrical apprenticeship program, and this is where you'd come in and see faculty like myself. And what I've noticed is that when they, even prior to out in the field, but now that they've come into the electrical apprenticeship program, having this knowledge ahead of time and the basics, and then I get to elaborate on it in class, has proven success for students in the ultimate outcome of completing their apprenticeship and writing their CFQ and becoming a journey person, and then either working for somebody or being an entrepreneur and running their own business. Working hand in hand with these students, whether out on the tools, which I have done for many years, being a local contractor here for over 20 years in the area, and then now teaching at Niagara College into the electrical apprenticeship program, for going into my 5th year now here. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with some of the students that have come out of a program like this. It really, really, really helps. So program highlights, again, this is stuff that would be really would be covered in great depth when you get out in the field. But being an electrician, having this, I never had this opportunity in my life to do a program like this, but luckily, I ended up working in the trade itself. But it's, working in the electrical trade has been an absolute, just an incredible experience. I loved every single day I went to work. I liked getting up in the morning. I never disliked my job. It was just a very, very great opportunity. It's a great thing. It's a great trade, I'm telling you. Anything you can do, especially this one here, working with your hands, just absolutely, absolutely incredible. So.
So we have one last question here that I do see. So mom's part of the paramedic program. They're requiring work boots. They're wondering if the same rule applies. They have steel-toed work boots. However, they're not typical black or yellow. Is it acceptable? Is there anything else required for the course? So I think this is more focused on materials. What types of materials in terms of safety equipment would students be required to have?
I can answer some of that. Into the electrical techniques program, and I'm sure it's the same into the construction area, the safety equipment that they need to supply for themselves, especially for the electrical techniques program, is just a pair of safety boots. They must have a green patch on them. All the rest of the safety equipment we supply. We supply your safety glasses. In the electrical techniques program, we also supply them with a lock and a tag, because everything that they work on, the disconnects and stuff, have to be locked off and tagged out as they work on it. Safety glasses are supplied. We have, for this COVID right now, we have special safety glasses with some rubber seals around them, so they're a little bit more protective. But other than that, that's for the safety equipment. For us, that's all they're required to make sure that they have their safety shoes. And also one of the other things is that shorts are not allowed. So in the summertime, or in the time where it gets a little bit warmer out, you're still not allowed to have shorts on in the shop classes themselves. In your election classes and that is fine, but when you're in the shop classes, they have to have long pants on also. And as far as the tools go, in the electrical techniques program, you are supplied with a tool belt, which has your pliers and screwdrivers and all the equipment that you would need. It's a nice little package for a first entry into being an electrician. It's a nice little pouch to start off in an apprenticeship.
Yeah, the shops are air conditioned, just to let some of your potential students know. It's a little bit comfortable.
Very important.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so very much. Thank you for your time. Remember, there are opportunities for tours to come up. We will try to have you on campus if that's something that would help you with your decision making. Our faculty are great, so you can always reach out. Remember, as part of recruitment, we do have an opportunity to get those emails across to our faculty. So if we can help, if you have more questions between now and applying in February, please never hesitate to reach out. Once again, thank you to all our amazing faculty and student, and thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it, and hopefully see you at NC before too long. Have a great day, everyone.